Welcome back to the Boomer Bust channel. I'm your host Terry, and let's get this out the way. I got a rant. I got to talk about this. I've been waiting to talk about this. If you heard me previously, you probably noticed I sound stuffed. I didn't realize it was so bad till I replayed it, but yeah, I'm definitely congested right now, so I apologize for that. And I feel like I got 20 disclaimers before we go into this, but that's number one. I'm stuffed up, so bear with me. All right, that's that. Number two, this is definitely a rant. It's an editorial. It's not necessarily on topic of anything in particular that I cover here. So I recognize that again. It's a rant, and if that's not what you want to listen to, that's cool. Also, I would say that this discussion is deep and it's philosophical and it's not something that we could address. It's definitely not something I could address by myself. But also it's not something that I'm addressing one video, and it's not something that I'm necessarily trying to, because it goes deeper than rap, as they say. It's more than just entertainment and everything. It's political, it's ideological, it's everything. And we have a giant base of America that likes to avoid all of those things. So I get it. It's not your thing. That's fine. I'm not here to convince you or trick you to listen. That's honestly part of the discussion, is that this is how America consumes anything. People feel like they need to have a distance between entertainment and everything else. So there's that. All right. So with that being said, I've had a huge beef, and that's just so weird. I'm sorry, I got Netflix in the background because I'm about to watch Avatar, and then it just popped up the little promo for the series Beef. Anyway, I got a huge beef with sports media, and if you follow the channel and everything, you know that's no secret. That is the core reason, one of the core reasons that I created the channel. And so I've had a beef with them for a long time, and just how trash it is, to be honest. And it's grown and it's changed since this channel started, but I for a long time still feel that way, especially when it comes to football, which is a sport that I love and I have deep knowledge of. And I think they dumb down the conversation, and it's extremely annoying. Especially, it's one thing to do that back in the day where you were kind of the only voice. Now they're still the loudest voice, but they're not the only voice. So now it affects all these people who now have a platform in social media to regurgitate misinformation, or just create our own societal expectations. So it is an issue. So all that being said, I do understand that I'm not here to tell people how to make their money and all those different things. But I will say that just because it makes money doesn't make it good or anything like that. And I want to say something specific, but I can't remember, and it's fine. We'll get into it. So we're gonna kick this off because it's very little about JJ Reddick, but he sets the context of it, and so that's why I kind of named it that way. But JJ Reddick essentially says something about Doc. This is from what I understand. He said something about Doc Rivers, and he got pushback, and he just kind of was going off because you had Pat Bev. I'm sure others kind of attack him, but he was going off on First Take, and he essentially all he really said was that, for an example, to his point, I could make a video breaking down, real tangible stuff in terms of Zion was the example we used, and it would only get so many views or engagement. But I mention a coach and try to hold him accountable, and that gets tens of millions of views. And so that kind of popped off this whole conversation. Again, that's from my point of view. Maybe there was a lot more. I'm not sure, but that's what I saw. And so from that, there became this whole thing. So obviously you got Stephen A who kind of does his Stephen A thing, and we'll get to him. You had Unc Shannon jump in. I'll get to him a little bit later too. But although he wasn't as bad as everybody else, but I'll get to him. But then, see, this is what kind of, made my ears perk up, because JJ Reddick's not the first to call out what this thing is, this machine of sports media. He's not the first to say that. And maybe he said it in a way that was too animated, too raw for people. But plenty of other people who make their living on this machine have mentioned in small ways and different ways like what this is. And they know what game they play. But they didn't get this type of pushback. Again, to the point where you had people on the show, okay, that's one thing, but then people going out of their way online to attack people and getting on their platforms, or my bad, to attack JJ, essentially saying, why are you on the show if you got such an issue with it? If you got an issue with it, you part of the problem and all that. So there's a lot of issues with that. There's a lot of issues that I have with that, I should say. And again, this isn't mainly about JJ Reddick or even what he had to say about Doc, not at all, but it is sports media and the issue. I'm going to start with Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. is somebody that I neither disliked or liked very much. Like, kind of in my early years of watching it, it was just like, okay, he's one of the people on ESPN. Obviously, we know these personalities got a lot bigger. Back then, they were just kind of whatever. They were journalists. They're pretty much how people treat beat writers right now. You have the quote unquote, I don't even know what they call them, insiders, like these people that break news. That's kind of a thing. Obviously, you got full blown TV personalities now that used to be journalists or never were journalists. And so you got different areas. But back then it was just like whatever. Those just the people, yeah, they're not players. And that's kind of how it was. And yeah, I knew his kind of deal, but I didn't really care one way or the other. And I'm putting the context because I don't want to make it, I don't want any misinterpretation. It's not, grinding the axe or anything. I don't know him personally, so I can't speak on him as a person, outside. Now, he has a show where he's been a lot more like McAfee and trying to unload, and that's cool, whatever. So you get a little more glimpse into him. But I never really care one way or the other. So as we go down the line where Skip leaves, and then I kind of miss most of the Max era because that's when I tapped out. And then I came back right before Max left. And then obviously after he left, Stephen A kind of took over, quote unquote, ESPN. And actually, to say his podcast or show, because he had a little show, then he had a podcast, whatever. That's where I really learned the most about him. And so this is stuff that's coming from him. And so out of his mouth, he says that he's a company man. And he basically attacks anyone that thinks that's an issue. Why wouldn't he be a company man? These people pay me. They write the checks. Of course, I'm going to do what sells. We're trying to make money. That's the whole point. So, right off the bat, he comes with this capitalist mentality. That's what it is. And we live in a society in America and a lot of other societies, but America's the worst, where, that's what I was going to say earlier. My biggest takeaway from all this is to say that one of the things I hate the most, and I will disagree with to the day I die, is this notion that just because that's the way things are means that's the way things should be. And Stephen A uses that mentality like a lot of capitalist people. That's the way things are. That's how they've always been. Does not make it right. And so I don't believe Stephen A or any of these people lack the intelligence to actually interrogate what they're doing, to have the nuance to know Not even what they're doing, but anything in life. Like if someone gets shot, oh, that's the way it is. This is somebody got shot there last week. Well, no, and it's a decision to not dive deeper than the surface and leave it at that's the way it always been, because that's an easy escape for them not to be accountable. And that's what Stephen A does, and again, that's what a lot of capitalists do. And Stephen A said that out of his own mouth. That's how he rolls. Fine. Not something that I respect or get down with, but that's him. He made no apologies about it. And then that mentality rubs off on a lot of people and whatever. And really, I shouldn't get too deep in that because that's how they are. That's how they are. Um, but my issue comes with these people, Stephen A, Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, all these people, where they are trying to essentially gaslight people because the person you might notice I mentioned, Skip Bayless. Skip Bayless, I think, is the worst of them all. But Skip Bayless doesn't make any bones about it. Now, he doesn't come out here and tell you, oh, yeah, this is all fake and blah, blah, blah. But he doesn't sit here and pretend off camera, on camera, whatever, that this isn't entertainment. He doesn't pretend that he's almost a character and all that. He doesn't pretend that he wants people to hate him because, any attention is good attention type stuff. It's the Stephen A. Smiths who can admit, all right, well, this is what the bosses want. I have bosses. I got to get my money. Fine. But then don't turn around and try to make people like JJ Reddick seem crazy because he's telling the truth. And again, Stephen A wasn't the worst culprit, but he's the biggest figurehead in all this. Um, and I probably would say Skip, but again, Skip doesn't go to the lengths that Stephen A does, and he doesn't influence a culture like Stephen A does. Because now you got Stephen A having Shannon act like this. And it's just this excuse of this sells. We talk about the Cowboys because it sells. This is what the people want. And so I'm absolved of any responsibility. We're just doing what makes money. There's a lot of things that make money. Don't make it right. And so I have a big issue with him and that. And matter of fact, I thought I was going to go deeper into each individual person, but I'm not, because they're all wrapped up into the same thing. It is this notion that we're the ones in terms of Stephen A, Nick Wright, and all that. We're the normal ones. JJ Reddick, you're the weird one. No, he's not. He's telling the truth. Like, he's telling the absolute truth. And so I'm in a weird space where there's people I like that I'm disagreeing with, and there's people I don't disagree with usually. I agree with, like Doug Gottlieb. Doug Gottlieb got on. First of all, he's done stuff like this before, but he got on and said a very, I think, a very articulate, concise way of wrapping it up is saying that sports media is junk food. It's easy. America's addicted. Great analogy. But there's a moment where he goes into it in deeper detail, saying that and I wish I remember exactly how he said it, but he said, even though it's not the intent most of the time, because someone's trying to be funny, because someone's trying to make a personality, a name for themselves in pop, it's an easy way, it's an easy path to people going too far and disrespecting coaches and players and dehumanizing them and talking about them in a way that is extremely not I wouldn't say extremely disrespectful, but it definitely disregards their humanity. And he says, and above all, it's not educated, it's not rooted in facts. And it's true. Again, I think a lot of what he said was a good summary of what I feel about sports media. Like, For me, the biggest thing is that it dumbs down the conversation. And I think that's a disrespect to all sports, but mainly to the sport that I love, hold dear to my heart, and that's the biggest in the world, and that's NFL football. And it dumbs down the conversation, and I hate that because I think most people, something you truly love and are passionate about, you would love to share it. You might not make it your mission to, but you would love to share it with people who might not know. And you would love to see them appreciate it on the level that you do. And to see somebody mock every day what you enjoy and passionate about, it pisses me off. And that's where my issue started with it. But yeah, all of it creates this space where these people sometimes feel like they're bigger than they actually are. A Stephen A. Smith, 100%. And again, out of his own mouth, people come to see me. I'm the face of ESPN. I'm this and that. That's all him. People think they're bigger than they actually are, and they try to do too much because they think people came to see them. That creates a space where people will just say uneducated things for pop, the hot take society. It creates a space where people aren't trying to be intelligent or nuanced. They just want to say the simple thing because that's what sells. And it's an issue. And so I believe Dan Lebertar is probably the biggest voice about this. That and him and I almost called him Skip. Him and Stephen A. had their back and forth, being on each other's show, all that stuff. And they had the discussion. I respect Stephen A. for having this discussion. I don't hate Stephen A. at all. I don't know the guy to hate him. But I don't have this deep dislike for him because, again, I believe he truly believes this stuff. And so it is disappointing, but I don't hate him for it. So, again, I give him credit for going on having that discussion. Sitting in the face with one person, obviously nobody wants to do that all the time, but I think there's other people, and definitely me, but nobody's going to sit with me, that if you had this discussion with, it could get a lot more difficult than what he probably thinks he can handle. But either way, he sits there and they say the debate format ruined sports media or dumbed it down. And to a larger extent, it messed with the country and the world in general. And I agree with that. And again, this is where you go to a territory where people roll their eyes. Oh, this is just entertainment. Again, another excuse. Your society is built off many things. You don't have to be a history buff, but if you know a little bit about history, a little bit about war, one of the cliches they always tell you, what's the first one of the first things they do when they want to conquer a people or erase a people? They destroy their art. To sit here and act like art and entertainment doesn't influence life is silly, especially in 2024. To sit here and act like with social media that it doesn't have a convergence of reality and surrealism that actually impacts life is silly. And so, what I think from my vantage point, which I've said many times and I'll say again, my big issue is that the debate hot take format turned everything to me versus you. Because a debate, a true debate, is still a discourse. It's still a discussion at its heart. Even you are taking a side that you might not necessarily agree with. It's kind of like court in that sense, but it's not to the point of what they made it on TV. And then not only that, but what I feel First Take did was made it okay for a bunch of people to feel like I do not have to necessarily be right about anything. I just have to pick my side and fight hard for it. And even if I don't necessarily have facts, or I can just brush that off. Or if I don't necessarily give a good argument, I can just brush that off. Or if I end up being proven wrong, I can just brush that off. And this is not in the same, these are not the same. These are now nowhere near the same thing, but they're in the same area code. You started with this idea of debate in sports media. Then you get it taken to the ultimate with Donald Trump, quote unquote celebrity that became our president and one of the saddest moments in our country's history. But either way, however you feel about him as president, there's no denying he made a bunch of people feel it was okay to not only debate if you're wrong, but then just dispute facts. Things that are actual facts. Well, we're going to question the fact. Even though it's a fact, we're going to question the fact, and we're going to do it by attacking the person that's saying it. Ad hominem became, which is not new from Trump, but he made it okay, more than okay. And so people talk about how ugly the internet is and everything right now. I would say those are two big reasons. There's many other reasons, but those are two things that fed into our society in which you have real impact. Now, does anybody want to sit there and say, yes, I was part of contributing to that? Probably not, but it is the truth. And I think Stephen A, when he brushes stuff off like that, it's annoying. But again, his reasoning, and maybe deep down he knows he's full of crap, but his reasoning is really like pretty much, I don't know, 6 out of 10 people in the country. I'm making money. So what? I'm making money. This is what they want. I'm making money. And I could get that. But then you listen to other people, and Nick Wright is one person who didn't like it all, became a favorite of mine. I've been pumping him up a lot this last year because I do think he's doing some cool things, but he was so hypocritical. He was completely hypocritical because he wanted to call out JJ saying he's making fun of the platform, but then he's benefiting off of it, blah, blah, blah. Nick Wright is one of the few people that get on and challenge sports media all the time. And I don't care what he says. He wants to say it's a joke. He wants to say it's anything else. I watched them darn near every day. I watched them every day when they were on early. The man talks crap about other media journalists. He talks crap about how people rank things, about the stories they write. And I'm not saying in terms of like I hate sports media. No. He's doing what I think most people do. I'm in education. Do I think education is perfect? No. That's why I'm working within the system to change it. And you need people at all levels of things for change. But to act like you can't be part of the system while pushing back is silly, especially when he's one of the people that does it. And so he wanted to rant and talk so bad about JJ Reddick when he does some similar stuff. And again, I'm not saying that he is JJ Reddick or any of that, but he does some similar stuff and it was disappointing to see. But again, these people taking their time to attack JJ Reddick they're gaslighted as if he's saying something insane. What is he saying? People don't want to be educated. Like, they don't. They do not. These fans, a lot of these fans want to worry about fantasy football or fantasy sports, definitely betting now, and they just want to talk. But when you talk about actual real football, when you talk about actual real basketball in these sport, oh, it's too boring for them. I don't have the attention span. I don't care because they don't have a real passion for it. And so we call it like it is. This stuff is garbage. Now, if it was just garbage and it didn't affect anybody, that'd be one thing, but that's not how it works. Typically, these things always affect everybody. But we don't have a collectivist mindset in America. We have an individualistic mindset. This one person doing this thing over here has no impact on me, and you don't. That's never true. It's never true. And because you can't connect the dots, That's how people get out of responsibility. There are ways I could sit here and pull up every clip of what Nick Wright said, or I could pull up and do these things. That's what research is. Again, I'm in the doctorate program. I know what it is. When people write books and all that, they do all the work to do this research. That's the only time people they won't agree a lot of times, but they'll back off because it's like, oh crap, I was proven wrong. Or like someone actually did the work that I'm not willing to do to discredit them. Now, in today's age, they'll still push back and say everything about you and call you everything terrible. So therefore, what you did don't matter. They'll call it fake news and alternative facts. But that's the work it actually takes to make the invisible strings more visible. And I'm not doing that. And even if someone did, okay, again, I don't know that people would really see it, but that's the easiest way to do it. They act like you can't prove it, or if it's something they feel like you can't prove, they're just gonna stand strong on it. And so that's it's the sad reality of things. And again, it's a lot of my philosophy and my thoughts on these things. But to see how JJ Reddick was attacked really pissed me off. And again, if you want to play that game, that's fine. If you want to sell drugs, don't sit here and say you're not hurting the community. If you want to be part of a big tobacco company, don't sit here and say you're not making people smoke, or that you're just providing a product and that they're the issue. Don't do that. Don't sit here and say and make it seem like what you're doing is completely above board with sports media, even if you don't take it to the level I am of really ruining society's thinking ability. Even if you don't go that far, don't sit here and act like you're giving some substantive, actual analysis. You're not. And look, I'll be first to tell you, you don't have to be a Hall of Famer. You didn't even have to necessarily play to know something, to learn it, and to really understand how to analyze it. But that's not who y'all are. And even the ones that did play, y'all don't all know football that well. And so to sit here and act like, well, we're giving you the best of the best, and this is the best analysis you're going to get, and we're helping people. No, you're not. You're all in the same format, covering the same topics, giving the same opinions because of what? That's what sells. That's what sells on a 24-hour content cycle. We're all doing the same thing because this is what people want. It's a weird coincidence that when Popeye's chicken sandwich went crazy, everybody started selling their own quality chicken sandwich. No, it's fast food. You're just giving people a bunch of junk. And so don't turn around and attack people, and don't try to be holier than thou or try to gaslight people by saying, acting like, whoa, 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 whoa. Whoa, if you don't like it, get out of here. This is what it is. You know what it is. Yeah, you do too. And there's nothing wrong with saying and calling a spade, saying what it is for what it is. If you want to do it and it's so right and it's such if it's not an issue, then stand up and call it what it is. Please explain to me if they really felt that way. It doesn't have to be me, but I would grill somebody. But sit across from anybody, I don't care who it is, and explain to the people of America how you recapping a game that I already watched is good analysis. How is you looking at a piece of paper saying, oh, he went 20 for 29, 400 yards, it sounds like a good game to me. How is that good analysis? How is somebody running stats that you didn't even run and don't know how to look up good analysis? You're not bringing anything to the game at all. And you mean to tell me you got deep knowledge on every single topic? God bless Shannon Sharp. I'm a fan of his. Disappointed how things are going now, but I'm a fan of his. You mean to tell me because he's a Hall of Fame football player that he has deep knowledge on every sport that y'all cover? And that doesn't mean he can't be good. But I'm saying, don't try to sit up here like we're giving you the best entertainment, the best analysis, the most elite. No, you're not. You're not giving us crap. I know a coach up the street that coaches high school football that can give me better breakdown than anybody on ESPN. So I don't stand on this moral ground as if we're not doing nothing wrong, or you're JJ Reddick, you're making this out to be something that's not. No, he's not. He's calling it for what it is. And so just you don't gotta agree with him, you ain't gotta jump on with him, but don't try to attack him, man. That was just BS. So that's it for me. Go to the comment section, let me know what you think. Share it around, get the conversation started, and thank you for listening.